Well, we're here with our hands folded, with and our heads bowed and lowered because Judge McCormick, is that her name, McCormick?
Yep.
Yeah. Chancellery Court of Maryland, Delaware. Anyway, sorry. Has not gone our way, Larry. She's done it again. She hasn't been the friend to Tesla or to stockholders anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, this is an activist court. An activist means, got to punish the billionaire.
But she's
Soon
punishing.
I mean, soon they'll have to punish the trillionaire.
That's true. Yes, if he keeps it up, if he continues to, I don't see how he avoids it.
Yeah, and I see the stock did fall after hours a little bit. I was interested to see what the action was, but it wasn't by much, right?
$3.75 last time I checked.
Yeah, maybe 1.5%. There's still an appeal. They have a better chance on appeal than they had on the direct, simply because she is clearly very, very strongly biased against Elon Musk and felt no shame in actually, putting it up front in her judgment. Yeah. It's hard for me to judge what an appeal court will do. I think somebody opined that it would be about a 30% chance of a reversal. That's the average. I think. Don't quote me on this. But reversals on appeal are not always they're in the minority. So whether it's 30% or 10%, I don't know, but it's a minority. I'm glad this is the last case that McCormick is likely to hear, because the move to Texas will be the last game in town for her, I think.
Probably, well, unless this appeals court sends it back, that's always a possibility. They could
That's
decide.
right.
They could decide that she ruled correctly in part and incorrectly in part.
Right.
Back
You're
to
right.
her for, yeah. I mean,
Yeah, but
I think I've always believed now, a lot of people are probably coming in the middle of this. We can't go back through the entire, if you're in the middle of this and didn't hear all the beginning parts of how this went, we cannot take the time today to go back and take it step by step. But there was one part of the ruling, Larry, that I thought to me, was the most ridiculous part. And that was, she said that the amount of pay that was being proposed by the board and by the stockholders was not above the pale. It was beyond anything that had ever been offered to anybody before, and therefore could not be justified. It was therefore not just. But she offered no alternative method. Well, she offered no alternative amount, I guess is how I would like to say.
I don't think that's the problem. I think the problem is that it's tantamount to saying, look, nobody's ever produced an EV before, therefore it's not reasonable to assume that you can build an EV.
Right.
I mean, that's, you can't make these absolute judgments in business because, a business situation in an innovation in a time of innovation is talking about breaking new ground, and so in a way Tesla was breaking new ground in the most incredible, in the most violent of ways. So to try and rate this according to how people do processing pork or building a bridge or it just makes no sense at all. And of course, she'll be shamed by history. When we look back in history and we see Tesla building this multi-trillion-dollar business, and we see, what Elon drives towards. Nobody's going to remember this judge and her activist ways. And it's, what's surprising to me is, given the impact of this election, you think that there would be a certain degree of introspection by some of these activists. It's brought us all to realize that some of the stuff that we had begun to see as normal was as abnormal as it gets. I mean, maybe maybe you're an exception, but I know many people in the middle had drifted left because they started seeing these, what were abnormal concepts, becoming normalized and kind of accepting it, not questioning it. And I'm talking about things ranging from, education to the reinterpretation of history, race relations, gender perceptions, and so on. All of this stuff, we've seen this dramatic change of perception. And then this election kind of got us all to realize that, hey, this damn emperor's got nothing on. He's walking down the aisle absolutely naked, and all of the stuff that we've clothed him in just doesn't exist. And you'd think there would be some, some degree of reassessment of these activist positions, but apparently, no, she's doubling down.
Yeah, I haven't read the entire transcript. All I read was the part that not Mario, was it Mario Sawyer Merritt, I think, put up. Might have been an article that he pulled from, and all it talked about was the appeal, the portion of the appeal that dealt with the attempt to redo the agreement in this election last year. It didn't talk about the response by the defense in terms of the original arguments, because there was also an appeal with regard to the original arguments being wrong. And so far, I haven't seen that portion of it. I need to dig in. I also want to see what Warren has to say about it. But there was the elements of the original case might be the part that has the easiest part of appeal, because I felt like, as a lawyer, I'm not a lawyer, I'm sorry, let me say that again. As a graduate of law school, the 9th best law school in the world, as a graduate of law school, I looked at her original opinion. It was just biased. And one of the things we talked about, Larry, at the time, you and I, was that there was, I think it was 8 points.
Yeah.
And you could be shocked, maybe, if the judge had decided that 7 of the 8 went in one direction and one, you would probably be shocked at that. No, 8 out of 8.
8 out of 8.
Direction of the plaintiff.
I mean, no modesty, no judicial modesty at all. None at all. And no, I mean, that's what I mean by this election kind of rerouting people or rebasing people. But no modesty in the original judgment and absolutely doubling down in the appeal.
Right. Yes.
So I haven't read the appeal at all yet, by the way. So, everything I'm saying is probably wrong. But
well, Larry, let me go through this part of it. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is, again, I think it was Sawyer Merritt. The large and talented group of defense firms, they got creative with, this is her argument, got creative with the ratification argument, but their unprecedented theories go against multiple strains of settled law. There are at least 4 fatal flaws. First, the defendants have no procedural ground for flipping the outcome of an adverse post-trial decision based on evidence they created after trial. So that was her first point. So you get the decision,
Yeah, but you know that is so strange because the evidence after trial really underlined the validity of the evidence before the trial.
right.
And that's the whole point. I mean, she's hiding behind a very legalistic point, an extraordinarily legalistic point. Because if you look at the materiality of what happened after the fact, what it does is prove the point of the materiality before the fact.
Exactly. Exactly. It's not actually new evidence.
Not at all.
It's
Not at all.
confirming
It's
evidence.
confirmation.
Right.
It's confirmation that even her whole point was that people just were not sufficiently informed.
Right.
And by the way, this was contested. This wasn't accepted by the defense. It was contested by the defense. She found against the defense. What this does is show that the defense was more right than wrong, and her assessment of the fact was incorrect. I mean, she should have had more modesty on that point.
So then secondly, she says, common law ratification is an affirmative defense that must be timely raised, which means that at a minimum, it can't be raised for the first time after the post-trial opinion.
Well, a post-trial opinion took so long to come out. I mean, that affirmation, well, you know what? My first point applies here. I mean, this is legalistic nonsense.
Yes, I don't know what you do if you have a situation like this other than provide an affirmative defense in the way that it was done. You can't just you can go down and say you were wrong, which they did.
But if a judgment takes place and a new fact emerges that wasn't available at trial,
Right.
Is that not grounds for the defense to go back to the judge and say, "Wow, we've just discovered this fact"? You know.
Yes, and moreover, she did not give an affirmative method. She didn't give a new amount. She didn't go, here's the amount of stock he should have gotten, or here's the amount of money he should have gotten, or she didn't give any alternative approach. So therefore, she left it open to the whoever to try to come up with some kind of valid amount. Well, you have to do that affirmatively after the post. Anyway, I think let's go to the third one. Third, when the defendants call common law, ratification has no basis in the common law. A stockholder vote standing alone cannot ratify a conflicted controller transition. Cannot ratify a conflicted controller.
So she's saying Musk is the controller,
right?
Conflicted, and the
Not
general,
not transition, transaction. Misread that, Larry.
Oh, thank you.
A conflicted controller transaction. So you're right. You were on the right track.
So wait a minute.
So the controller, Elon Musk, was controlling the transaction. That's her.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And that a stockholder vote standing alone cannot ratify the transaction that was originally created by this controlling controlling person who was conflicted, Elon, and other board members.
But if the conflicted person reveals his confliction,
yes,
why can the shareholders not ratify that?
Yeah, and that brings up her fourth point. So then she says, even if a shareholder vote could have ratifying effect, it cannot do so here due to multiple material misstatements in the proxy statement. Each of these defects, I'm sorry. So she's saying that after all the, now this is not some low, like $100 an hour lawyers that were picked up along the way just because, these are like some top attorneys that understand both Delaware law, contract law in general, and they're top attorneys.
But wait a minute, is she saying the second vote
Yes,
was misinformed, was not properly informed?
that there were material misstatements
In the second vote?
in the second vote.
What? No, you can't be.
I'm
That
reading
can't.
this.
Are you sure saying that there's,
multiple material misstatements?
does she cite one of them? Any of
Again,
them?
I haven't read the entire opinion. I would think that she would have
Wow.
needed to state those, yes.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
So kind of my point in general was going to be, Larry, that it's kind of odd, again, these top lawyers that put this together, the top lawyers that put together the proxy that went out, the lawyers that put together this appeal. And she's suggesting, and she even says in the beginning, the large and talented group of defense firms, that she's basically saying, no, I know so much more about it than you. I am so much smarter than you. All of you top lawyers, that everything that you're trying to do here is not, has no merit, zip merit, none.
I mean, I would love to know what those material errors or misstatements were, because, I mean, here we have real grounds for appeal, because I cannot believe that there were misstatements after in the second vote.
Yeah, you can make up, Larry, she's a lawyer. You can find you can decide what was a material misstatement because you don't agree about something that was said. I mean, I'm sure she
A
came
material misstatement can be so easily tested.
Yes, I would think so. Well, within standards, yes. Anyway, it was that there you
That
go.
would be a shock to me. Anyway, what are the other simple?
Well, that's it. That's it. That's the case. That's her case. That's what she's saying. She's saying that the original way that it was created, which is what she said originally, was on every ground. Now she's saying that she's not going to take the New Deal on every ground. She's basically saying, you guys, all of your attorneys and all of the business people that were involved in creating the original one and now creating this, you guys are all wrong. And that the shareholder with his one attorney firm, now they're right on every single issue.
Wow.
But as you said, the cool thing is the stock is only down $3, which suggests that, at least initially, if you can trust the after hours shares, the after hours stockholders, they're seeing it as a nothing burger. They're still in appeal, and they're still the taking it to Texas and redoing the pay package in Texas.
Right.
And the immediate impact is zero.
I wonder if she'll try and keep them in Delaware and not permit the transfer.
That could be then a Supreme Court decision. And so we might be looking at 2035.
Well, right now, I think in the next 4 years, it will happen without a doubt.
Faster. All right. Well, okay. So AJ says he is commenting on Craig Irwin raising his target for
What do you think about that?
He raised his target. I got to tell the folks first, Larry. Raised his price target from $85 to $380 a share.
Now, I've seen everything, but it's not often that I've seen, a bearish analyst move from bearish to hyper bullish, in one moment without any. I mean, yeah, version 13 came out, but we've been anticipating this for almost a year. There's nothing that material that happened in the last 30 days.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, we got version 13. It was exciting. Yes, we won an election, which was exciting.
Fighting.
We shouldn't really be taking, I mean, but wow.
Yeah, yeah, I know. And it's not like everybody's going to jump up and down and go, "Oh boy," because Irwin says it, we should now do it, because he is not a highly rated analyst anyway.
But
But
it's a fairly well considered organization. I mean,
organization, yeah. But so he says Tesla's upside is so massive and obvious now that it is. I'm sorry, he didn't say this. This is this
he
is
he never noticed that the iceberg, there may be more
yeah.
iceberg under
Actually, I'm
the.
sorry. This is AJ commenting
Oh, AJ.
Irwin's decision. I thought this was a great comment. Tesla's upside is so massive and obvious now that it even started turning long-term bears into bulls, but the trend has just started. So I don't know if you saw the rather long video that came out today from Chris Camilo or Camilo.
Oh, well, Chris is now, Chris is a good friend of mine.
Is he? Okay, good.
Yes, and in fact, he is one of my first guests in my new channel,
Wow. Okay.
The Maverick Mind.
Yeah,
And we'll talk about that. I'm gonna announce it more formally. But so Chris is like, I think is like the number one guest after our host. But he's one of my favorite of all investors. Why? He's a retail investor.
Okay.
But he's a retail investor that has put over a very long period of time, most institutional investors and most hedge funds to shame. He's a one-man hedge fund, extraordinary person. And what is extraordinary about his skill is his ability to read trends based upon mainly social media. He calls it social arbitration.
Okay.
But he is extraordinary in the skill, and it's a skill. He has evolved the skill from childhood. Really, he tells the story. You'll hear it in my interview of him. I don't want to break it all, but in my interview, he talks about how he did this incredible investment. I mean, small but as a very young age, I think, as a kid. So you'll hear it all in the interview. But the point about him is that he sees these trends very, very clearly, and he has very high conviction about the trends he identifies.
Right.
And he's very, very seldom wrong.
So what he said today is that he has been holding back on really going all in on Tesla because he wanted to wait for the Optimus moment he's talking about. So the time when it might be the reveal, maybe it would be some extraordinary video, but something that would be looked at as the moment when Wall Street would have to identify the reality of Optimus and what it really means for the company. He says, so that's what he's been waiting for and waiting for and waiting for. However, he watched every single video, he said, spent 4 hours over the weekend watching every single video that came out from the Chuck Smiths and all the rest over the weekend. And he said, after watching those, he says that the version 13 is, his word, stunning.
Yeah.
And as a result, he said he put the first quarter of his expected investment, on the line the first thing this morning when the markets open, and he plans to continue to make this very highly leveraged investment in Tesla, be at least most or some or most of his intended investment that he was waiting for Optimus to do. So called it stunning, says and his two sidekicks were also more, ready to go as far as they thought it would be reasonable to do. In fact, Chris.
Did you have David Jordan on the call?
He had, I haven't been watching him regularly. I've seen him from time to time. I can't tell you who the two other
Yeah,
firms.
those are his two
Yeah.
accomplices. I mean, they're an interesting group because, Jordan is very, very cautious. He's very conservative, very cautious. I mean, he's a technologist. Um, Chris is just, Chris has, he wrote a book, about his 20,000 to 20 million, I think it was um, his first big break. And since I mean, during the pandemic, he made so much money. It was a little embarrassing all around. But look, he's an investor that develops such a lot of confidence in has developed such a lot of confidence in his methodology, and he's honed that methodology to such a fine art that he can make those very big bets and very often quite leveraged bets,
Yeah.
and with incredible outcomes.
He said that he hadn't thought about anything but FSD for 72 straight hours. It was keeping him up at night. That's pretty interesting because he's obviously got more money than he's ever going to be able to spend, but that it's actually causing him anxiety, the amount that he's already put into it and the leverage that he's already using.
Yeah.
So, but he said what you just mentioned a minute ago. He said, look, whether or not FSD is going to be here in 6 months, the retail investor and some on Wall Street are going to believe it's going to be here in 6 months based on those videos over the weekend. And therefore, since they're going to believe it, then the market is going to do what the market's going to do. And of course, it did it today with a 12 point, another, whatever it was, 10 or 12 point increase after the 12 points on Friday.
Yeah, but we're just flirting with a breakthrough. The
Sure.
breakthrough's coming, and we're just flirting with it. 350, 360, 340, 350, 360. It's just flirting. When the breakthrough comes, it's up to the 400 and,
Right.
460, 500. So I think he's right. Well, it's not for me to call Chris right. Chris is a legendary investor.
Yeah.
I have very high levels of confidence in what he does and what he says, because he always does what he says. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about that.
All right. So Elon, according to Avi, A-V-I, Avi Schiffman. Now, I must follow her, but it's the first time I remember seeing anything from Avi Schiffman. She says on another subject, Elon bulldozed Sam's political attempts. Sam Altman, that's who she's talking about, has I'm sorry, I'm having trouble seeing this here. Oh, so he bulldozed Sam's political attempts. He has first access to new NVIDIA GPUs, on top of already having the largest cluster, is tying up OpenAI's move to for-profit in court, and owns all the real-world context streams, X, humanoids, and cars. She says, how does Sam win here?
Well, Sam is very far ahead for a start. I mean, so yeah, so we saw the news that Elon tied up a huge delivery of Blackwell chips. You saw that, right? And I think that's what she's referring to.
That's what she's talking about. Yep.
Yeah, I have just ended my GPT-2, GPT-4, GPT-2. I'm living in the past. Deal, because it seems to be in trouble. The quality of the results I'm getting have been declining fairly dramatically. In fact, I struggled 2 weeks ago. I was doing some analysis on the budget, doing my Doge work, and the quality of the results just kept declining. Just kept declining. So I ended my subscription.
Oh.
My subscription will expire at the end of the world. of course, I've got Grok and I'm using Grok. So I was using GPT-4 to really prove Grok, and
Mhm.
in some areas it's actually better than Grok, and particularly drawing graphs and stuff like that. But the quality of the work, they kept getting things wrong. And, you
Hmm.
know, I would check them lazily in the past, but now I have to check them with such care because they make such silly mistakes. So I'm using Perplexity right now and finding that it is significantly better than ChatGPT-4 and GPT-4 Mini. Is it 4 Mini?
Mhm.
But the thing about it was 4.0, sorry, 4.0.
Right.
But the thing about it is that it seems to have declined in quality over time, and I don't know what the story behind that is.
It's been reported, by the way. You're not the only one. I saw a
Really.
story on that. Yes. So others are seeing it as well. It could be the, what do you call it? This re uh, re-eating its own vomit, so to speak. In other words, the fact that it's
But yeah, so I don't know that it's true. Well, it could be. It could be a reflection of that, you know, because what happens is that you're only reading your own context. You're only, you know, operating off your own context.
right.
So when you start a brand new context, you think that it was looking at its own, you know, at its own uh, pre-trained set. But right out of the gate, it's getting errors, and then those errors will compound over time.
Yeah.
But I kept on having to correct it and kept on having to correct it. And it would acknowledge, yes, I made this mistake, I'll fix it. And it would acknowledge it each time. But it was getting very frustrating because I would have to each time find a different problem.
Yeah.
It is not that it repeated the same problem. It's just that it kept on
Making
hallucinating on different subjects.
So Elon says he's going to have a consumer-facing version, which you will not have to go into X to get to. Moreover, the power users are going to start reporting if it's in fact better. I mean, we already have kind of a battle going on, and different people report, give comparisons, and compare and contrast with all the different versions. Perplexity seeming in many cases to be kind of the winner, but Grok is more fun. Grok is more current. It gets current information off of X. So if it can be more correct and more fun and more current, it would seem like ultimately it wins.
I'm finding Grok to be on a par with Perplexity for the most part.
Okay.
Um, Perplexity can do a little bit more complex stuff. For my purposes, I need graphs and I need tables.
Mhm, mhm.
And some of that stuff gets a little bit beyond Grok. But not all but you know, for the most part, it keeps up and matches Perplexity for the most part. In some areas, it's better than Perplexity in a way. And this is the current version of Grok. I'm not talking about
Uh,
I don't have access to anything more current than what is in X right now. So it's pretty exciting.
yeah. So, and then to make matters more interesting, people have started talking about what is the true value of X anyway right now,
Yeah.
because people have been talking about, oh, it's down to only being worth 10 billion. Well, first of all, it's worth 12 billion just by virtue of owning 25% of X.AI, which is now worth 50 billion. But then in addition to that, what is the if
Well, Fidelity marked it up today or yesterday,
by
actually,
33% or something?
37%.
Yeah.
Oh, no, $37 billion. They marked it up by 30 something percent. Yeah, they marked it, I think, sorry, $17 billion.
17
Sorry.
billion.
They marked it up 37% to $17 billion. So it's still quite a ways behind the 44 billion. But, you know, I posted in response that X is going to be the most valuable of the Musk companies.
I saw that post. So now we need to have a new competition going between the various folks like you and me out there. Which company wins the race?
I don't know if you saw, but SpaceX is looking for a valuation of 350 billion
350
in
billion.
their new round. That is like a 57% increase, 60% increase in the last valuation. No more
By
of their last valuation.
it'll make it by far the most valuable private company, on the planet. Um, and it's and again, I forget her name all the time. The president of SpaceX, Gwen.
When
She says it'll be more valuable than the Starlink division, that the SpaceX kind of division will be more valuable than the Starlink.
Yes, of course, once Starship starts launching. Yeah.
Yeah, but Brian Wong, who we both respect, thinks Starlink would be the biggest of all the companies. Warren Redlink thinks it'll be the boring company. Neuralink, I mean, come on, Neuralink might end up being in every human on Earth. So then you come back to poor little Optimus, who is only all of labor.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe people that listen to me on a regular basis have heard me say it before, but Larry, to me, Elon talks about it being, possibly 3 times labor or 3 times the number of humans on Earth. But he's talking about, because I might want one to do my back and I'd still need another one to go to the store or something. My thinking as a small little company entrepreneur has always been, one of our specializations when I had my factory was we were known throughout the bicycle industry as the place to go if you had a new idea. So all of these little, can you imagine how many backyard inventors there are in the bicycle business? I mean, everybody's got an invention about bicycles, and they would come to me because the other companies in the industry didn't want to fill out NDAs and all that kind of stuff. So they would come to me. So I ended up dealing with, hundreds and hundreds of product ideas. Do you know the number one reason most of them never got started, didn't even get off the ground?
I'm interested.
Because they cost too much. Okay, so here's an item you go, that's got a good use case. That might be able to sell, but it can only sell if it's $4.99. But let me see, here's this cost and labor and but it'd have to cost $7.90. That'll never sell at $7.99. And so all of a sudden you got a robot making it in small quantities with a 3D printer or something. I mean, you're talking about thousands of potential products coming to market that have no ability to before something like an Optimus. So there's much of things like that, services as well. Litter, you can't, it's so hard to pick up all the litter. But if you got robots picking up all the litter, all of a sudden you can have the cleanest parks and the cleanest beaches and the cleanest freeway centers. Anyway, so that is, so we got to decide, Larry, which one of these companies that Elon has created is going to.
Oh, the reason I'm so excited about X against all the other, well, not against all the others, but the reason I'm so excited about X is because it's all about electrons. It's one of the few of these companies that don't involve, well, XAI does, but XAI I see as as functioning an extension of X.
Yes, yes.
It's digital, and the breadth of its digital playground is gigantic because it's payments. It could do an Amazon.com or a Shopify.
Right.
It could do, all kinds of social
dating services.
Yeah.
Elon has mentioned that.
Search, banking. I mean, there's no limit to what it can become. And so with Elon there and, this amazing creativity of the people, I think it has enormous opportunity. You know, it could be, AWS,
Yeah, right.
payments,
Yes.
retail, or retail consolidation, or retail agencies. It can be, I mean, you name it, and so I think it's enormously an enormous opportunity. And I
Yeah,
think my sense is that it'll get back to its original $45 valuation within 2 years. And then
45,
the
45 billion
45 billion. Yeah. Then it's
off to the races.
off to the races. Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't even mention the obvious first thing, which would be YouTube taking a big chunk out
Yeah,
of you.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's covered by the social thing. I mean, to best YouTube is going to be tough because the reason YouTube is so popular is because it is so popular.
Right. Right.
So that's the climb you have. That's why these other, messaging services, or sorry, these other posting services have got a long way to go.
Right.
But it's just beginning now, and so we know how Elon works. It won't be longer before it'll be there.
So in general today, with regard to the macro, I only picked up one thing, Larry, that I thought was really worth talking about, and that is
Mm.
that the VIX, the fear gauge, has dropped below 14 for the first time since
Incredible. Yeah,
October.
it's incredible.
Oh, we've got the stock market. We got the Nasdaq at all-time highs again today. You got
Yeah,
the S&P near all-time high. You got all the indices at these highs, and you've got this economy that seems just poised to just go crazy. And
absolute Trump dividend.
it's a big Trump dividend, a huge,
Absolute Trump dividend.
yes. So where do we go from here? What is 2025 going to bring? It just seems to be filled with promise.
I always get this stinking feeling, that this is, you can't go up from here. There's only one way in, it's down.
You sound like my ex-partner who for 28 years would always, anytime I would say something that would be that optimistic, he would say, Randy, the light at the other end of the tunnel is actually a train coming the other way.
He proved to be right in the end.
Yeah, I guess even a clock, Larry, even a broken clock is right.
Right.
Well, okay. Anything other than what I've covered that you think we should be covering today before we look at the numbers quickly?
No, no, I think that's about it.
All right. Well, it turns out that Tesla did go up almost $12 again today, $11.93 for the day. And in the after hours is still down $3.82. So again, not really much reaction to the Chancellery Court's decision. The Dow slipped 128, was down immediately. It just stayed down. The NASDAQ was up immediately and just stayed up. Pretty flat. I mean, really for the day, very, very flat in terms of the activity once the early moves were made. And the Magnificent Seven were the standouts across the board. I mean, NVIDIA only a tiny bit, but Microsoft up. Let me look at the percentages here just to make it more usable. Microsoft up 1.78, Meta up 3.22, Amazon down up 1.36, Google up 1.46, Apple up 0.95. And I had lost track, Larry. Apple is now by far the largest company again. It's not a close race anymore.
Hmm.
It's like 400 billion more or something like that. I don't know what Apple did right or what NVIDIA did wrong.
They didn't improve their AI.
They didn't improve their AI. But they're now worth 3.6 trillion. Yeah, yeah. So I missed that. I was not paying any attention at all. The Kathy Woods were mostly up, mostly up. T-Doc for some reason
They've
was
had a
down.
very good run.
Yeah, T-Doc was down 4%, but other than that, CRISPR was up 7.7%. What happened with, they're always,
CRISPR could go on a hell of a run.
it could. It does. ARC goes with it. Yeah. Yeah, both of the ARCs 2.57 and ARC-G 2.73. Probably the G is probably because of CRISPR. Anyway, so yeah, so pretty good day for the market overall.
Pretty good year for the market overall.
Pretty good year. In fact, okay, so Tesla was up the most of any stock during November, and November was the best month for the market ever, or one of the best ever.
Maybe one of the best, but not the best month ever.
Yeah, I saw a headline. I should have written the headline down.
Hard to compete with March 2008.
Okay. Yes, I don't remember March 2000. I mean, I remember what was going on in
That
March.
was the recovery from the collapse.
Okay, all right.
Was it? Yeah, March 2008.
Yeah, I'll have to look that one up if I remember.
8th of March 2008. Bang.
And potentially the S&P has the potential to be the best year increase since 1997. One of those boom years. 98. I can't, but I should have written these down, but I didn't. But roughly that. It'd have to have a really good December, but it does at least have the potential to do that. The bonds ended up the day, Larry, only up 0.3 of a basis point. We're still under 4.2. That everybody on this channel knows that makes me happy. We have got the 2-year down actually today, 1.4 basis points. So that's the right direction. And the 1 month down 1.8 also. So there you go. It's overall a good day for the bonds as well. Look at that. Oil pretty much unchanged in the pre-market, 68 and 71.83. So about
if Trump has his way, we get under $50 oil by the end of the year, end of next year.
Yeah. I was watching that new program on television, Land.
I never watched television.
It's about the oil industry. Land something. He's a guy that anyway manages the oil company's lands or whatever. And he was talking about 40 to 90. You have to stay in that 40 to 90 range. If you get under 40, you're out of business. Everybody goes home. If you're over 90, then you're going to create all kinds of problems in the market.
Well, if you get under 50, then fracking becomes very difficult.
Right. Yeah. And this was in a fracking zone, an area that was primarily fracking. Natural gas, at least in the pre-market, only down 0.62%. At 3.20. A lot of these commodities recently are really trading in narrow ranges. It's not as much jumping around as there was. Gold, for instance, 2,664. I mean, it has been right in that range for quite a time now. Silver at 31. It's been between 30 and 34. Copper at $44.14. Very much
range bound. Yeah.
Range bound. And then Bitcoin is never range bound. Down 1192 for the day at 95,841. I saw one headline today where some guru was guaranteeing it would break through 100,000 before the end of the year. So we'll see.
It's possible. It's more than possible.
Sure. We've got the Dow down another 21 points or 0.05% in the pre-market. We've got S&P up 1.50 or 0.02%. You could call that unchanged. And NASDAQ similarly almost unchanged, down 3.5 or 0.01%. So not a lot of action in the pre-market on the equities, Larry. So you have to wait till.
So here's something for you to puzzle before we meet again. How happy is this vice president going to be to certify the election results when it comes her chance to do so, her time to do so
Yes, Vice
on
President.
on January the 6th?
Yeah, well,
She'll need a stiff one.
she'll need, yes, I wonder, they always, people already thought she was drunk, Larry, because of the way she talked, but
Yeah, it wasn't pretty.
it wasn't pretty. It wasn't pretty. But it seems like they're starting to come together a little bit, at least with regard to the reasons why she did lose. I've even heard some Democrats saying she wasn't a very good candidate.
Well, I think everybody knew it. They just wanted to, I mean, but some of these stars and whatever really talked themselves into the fact that she was this brilliant candidate because she could laugh. Joy, they called it joy,
Yes.
whatever.
Yes, I should actually be running because everybody knows I laugh too much. So I think it must be my turn to be
Yeah.
at some high office. If that's the criteria, I think I win.
Yeah, but unfortunately, you're the wrong gender. Unless you change genders, you're
Oh, that's right.
out.
It seems, yeah, I don't like surgeries, Larry.
All right, man.
Okay, listen, thank you so much, Larry, as always, for being on. And to all of you out there, wait a minute, is there something I need to remind you? I need to remind you that Brian White will be on shortly at about 7:45 California time. The Brian White regular programming will be on tonight. And other than that, I think that's it, Larry.
Great.
Okay.
Looking forward to it.
And great
Thanks, man.
talking to you.
Bye.